Welcome back to RC Bench, where we build, tinker, and learn. Today we're going to be taking a look at this Traxxas TRX 4M, the Defender, and we are going to be upgrading it with some new wheels by Injora, and then taking the Swamp Kings, formerly on the AX24 here, that's been swapped over to these Injora Klingons. We're working better for rock crawling, but I think these Swamp Kings are going to work really well on this Defender. I also anticipate that we might need some more clearance here and might require cutting down that fender, but I've also got these new shocks from Nexx Racing that I'm hoping will give it a bit more lift. Now, I realize by raising this up, I'm also raising the center of gravity, but there's a couple of things here. One, I don't like these tires very much. I want something a little bit more meaty. And as you can tell, these Swamp Kings from Little Guy Racing Parts are much bigger than the stock tires that come on the Defender. The other thing is on this AX24, I've had a ton of success with getting a bit more weight in it and seeing some crawling performance that was not previously there. And so with a larger tire, some new weighted wheels, I'm hoping to get a similar level of performance out of this one. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to affect performance given that we're raising the center of gravity, but oh well, that's part of the fun. We'll figure it out. To demonstrate the existing performance, we'll go up this set of rocks here, which I don't think it's going to go up, and honestly the AX24 has a hard time, but we'll see just how far it can go. Nope. All right, let's get into this build. Now, I don't know what these wheels are specifically called, but I will link them in the description below. The one thing I was primarily concerned with when getting new wheels was not having what I had on the AX24, where I've got 16 screws per rim on the beadlock and then an additional 6 on the hubs. These new wheels from Injora should just be a total of 6 to complete the beadlock right at the hub center there. With those screws out, the weight comes out and the sides come out. Now let's get our tire. We'll pop that beadlock in, punch the front of the rim through, we'll seat the back of the rim nicely and try to line up all these spokes. Narrator, he did not line it up. All right, one down. Things are looking good. Time to do the rest. I'm realizing that these Swamp Kings might be shot here and that there isn't an inner lining for the beadlock to grab onto like there is here, that little plastic or rubber rib on the middle. Just doesn't exist on this one. And so this tire is constantly popping the bead. Well, there was never really a bead locked in to start with, but the equivalent of popping a bead, which sucks. Can't do anything about it. I'll keep plowing ahead and maybe I'll replace it at some point. Before we throw these on, let's get into some measurements. So our current ride height is about 34.8 millimeters from the rockers down to the ground. And the truck is currently weighing in at 582 grams. Each of the stock wheels is 17.2 grams, and we're upgrading that to 51 grams per wheel and tire. Before I get too far with this, I want to figure out if I'm going to need different shocks. There is just not a lot of clearance there. And when we turn it, we're getting a little bit of rubbing right back here. It's going to cause that to bind up. So I'm going to go ahead and install these new oil-filled shocks from Nexx and see if we can get a little bit more height and clearance for those tires. Feels a little bit springy, but they're probably better than whatever's on there right now. We've got the stock shocks out of the TRX 4M. There was one screw at the top here and then another at the bottom that runs through this lower link arm. Comparing these two side by side, this is slow and smooth, while the stock one is clunky and doesn't offer much support. Doing a rough comparison of shock length eye to eye, you're getting about 49.5 millimeters from the stock and somewhere around 52 from the Nexx shocks. And these come in a bunch of different colors like red, blue, maybe green, maybe orange, but I opted for the black and silver because I don't really want this to be the prominent part of my build. Much smoother, but very curious about that rebound. seems slow. So I might need to tighten up these collars here, which looks to be an aluminum collar, which is nice. All right, with that tightened all the way, we see the full rebound. I'm gonna set it about here, just a little bit off that top. And that feels pretty good, but we'll adjust later on. All right, that's all 4 tires, all 4 shocks done and dusted. This thing feels a whole lot heavier. Definitely a lot smoother, although the compression is maybe a little stiff. We'll see how it performs. All right, quick final weigh-in. We're all the way up to 723 grams with the tires, the wheels, and those new shocks. We're now up to 45.5 millimeters with suspension, wheels, and tires. And when it's down, you can see there's still some rubbing, so we didn't fully solve that. And I might need to trim part of that fender. But that looks pretty good. And half the battle here was getting it to look good. I think that looks pretty meaty. I don't know about you. Let me know what you think. That looks rugged. All right, looks don't mean much if it can't crawl any better, so let's see how this goes. Good bit more bite from the Swamp Kings than what we had before. Now I think we're running into what I would call a motor issue over anything else. The brushed motor that it comes with is just not that strong. But importantly, it doesn't seem to be... Ah, look at that. That bead that's popped off is causing some problems on the back left. But this is crawling a whole lot better than it was before. This is smooth. Look at that, with ease. Wow. Oh, this is so much more planted than it used to be. You can definitely tell that it's starting to bind up a little bit on those bumpers. I gotta figure that out. I don't want to introduce spacers because it's going to cause more rubbing on the front. But overall, it's a great upgrade. One last look at the Defender here. Obviously have some issues with these tires where the bead had worn out or it popped off from a previous installation. So I might need to swap these out either with some new Swamp Kings or maybe these Klingons over here or something in between. But I'm a fan of the look. And the only thing to solve for now is the rubbing that we get on these fenders, which may just be an issue with these Defenders. I don't think it's as prevalent on the Broncos from what I understand. So I'm gonna start with maybe carving this out a little bit, and I've heard that if you're careful and use good scissors, you can make it seem like it's never been cut off, but we'll see. So far, I think that looks terrific. It just looks so beefy.